Good morning, welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd Gerber here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering wisdom for living on this your Friday morning. Rise and shine and give God the glory. And this morning here, we're looking at a topic: who can find a virtuous woman? Who can find a virtuous woman? And I'm introducing the subject matter of Proverbs chapter 31. And so, welcome again, and hopefully you had a blessed night rest, and thanks for joining me here this morning. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you again for the blessings of this day. I thank you for the blessings, dear Lord, of the wisdom that you bestow by thy Spirit and from the Word and by the observation of nature. May you bless us, dear Lord, as we study, look at these things, and may you broaden our understanding. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. So I'm sharing with you here from Proverbs chapter 31, who can find a virtuous woman? And I'll be covering a few sections here over the next few weeks from Proverbs 31 to close off the chapter. And I believe it closed off real beautifully. This is, to me, where you talk about like a circle, closing the circle. There's things in Proverbs, and I'll deal with Proverbs chapter 3 also to show you how the circle is closed and how this is very important in dealing with the subject of Proverbs, primarily the communication from Solomon himself, that this, I think, was the missing link in his life. And so we learn from his own experience, and we glean beautiful truths and blessings and riches and honor and glory from these texts. So I'm going to go into Proverbs 31. I'm not going to go into detailed speech of each section. I'll deal with each little section here in greater details in the upcoming weeks. But what I'll do is I'll do a summary as an introduction, a little sweep of this beautiful little section of passage of Scripture. So who can find a virtuous woman is our topic again for this day. And I'll go ahead and read it so that it's in your mind. So in the upcoming weeks, as I go through it, I don't have to read the whole thing. I just talk about these a few clauses here, probably about 4 or 5 in here. Now, in Proverbs 31 verse 10, this is where it starts. It says, "Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall not have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeketh wool and flax, and worketh willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ship, she bringeth her food from afar. She riseth also while it is yet night, and giveth meat to her household, and a portion to her maidens. She considereth a field, and buyeth it. With the fruit of her hand she planted a vineyard. She girded her loins with strength, and strengthened her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night. She laid her hand to the spindle, and her hand hold the distaff. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She maketh her covering of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates, when he sitteth among the elders of the land. She maketh fine linen, and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchants. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she rejoice in time to come. She opened her mouth with wisdom, and her tongue is the law of kindness, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou excellest them all. Favor is deceitful, and beauty is vain. But a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. That's verse 31. Praise the Lord. So powerful, beautiful, very encouraging. It's It's an aim. And as I say, this is written by Solomon in Proverbs, written, I believe, by Solomon. It's the whatever was told him. And you can see the importance of this. It's as you read through Proverbs 31, you think about in our modern vernacular, our modern speech, we talk about people who are narcissistic and vapid and vain. And you think about that, and you think about this woman here, that the attraction to her, which is what I want to go into later on, is 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 because of is she's not one dimensional. So it's not those you're looking for. The question could be, who can find a virtuous woman? You could ask the question, who can find a hot woman? Who can find a very attractive woman? Who can find a woman that's very sexy? Who can find a woman that's beautiful in her face? You could ask those questions. You could ask, who can find a virtuous woman? It doesn't say per se if she's any of those things plus. It just simply say that she's virtuous. She has more to offer than simply the vapid or the vain. And so if she can have all of that plus that, that is great. So for a young person or any person looking for a wife, you're looking for a helpmate. And this lady here, as described, is a powerful helpmate. This is a person that you will not fail. If his failing is going to be somebody else's responsibility, she will not cause failure. So I'm going to break some of it down, some of the main takeaway points. As I say, I'll deal with each of them in more details in the upcoming weeks. Notice it says she has her own trade, her own career, her own hustle. She seemed to be doing all of this. She seemed to be not afraid to do a career, a trade, a hustle, all in once. She's buying property. She's growing a vineyard. She's doing merchant where she's making merchandises. She's selling the merchandises. So she's taking care of her household. So she's not like even one dimensional where it's just a career or it's a trade or it's a hustle. She's doing it all. So here she's going to make sure that the family does well. And that's part of the blessing. This is, as it ends, it says, give her the fruit of her hands. In verse 31, let her own works praise her. So when her family steps out and they look nice, that's the fruit of her hands. So when the question is asked, who can find a virtuous woman? It is asking, it lays out to you what exactly you're looking for. So it's not just looking for something that is just basically a doll or a mannequin. Because anybody can go into the store, go call up one of these store suppliers and say, can you sell me a mannequin? And actually nowadays they're selling those things. They're called blow-up dolls or sex dolls. Who can find that? That's there. But who can find this? This is more a unique proposition. And so often when a young person is thinking about marriage, they're thinking about who is the hottest thing on the block. Not thinking, wait a minute, who can I make a life with that's going to help me become very successful and stable? Notice here she can take care of the needy. So there's enough there for her to take care of her family. And she makes enough and she produces enough that there's some extra that the needy can eat a plate of food, can get some of the clothing, offer. The poor can get help from her. So this is not a selfish person. It's not a person that's trying to lord all of her excess money on makeup. This is something different. Notice here she dressed her family well for every season. So he says they're not afraid when winter comes because they're gonna go cold. It is when winter comes, instead of they worrying about cold, they're very secure. They're nice and comfy in their nice clothes. They're gonna be able to give something to the poor and the needy. So they don't have to go to the coat drive. I'm not saying anything wrong with that per se, if that's the situation you're in. But the aim is that she's busy herself trying to make some money that her family is taking care of. And notice here, her husband can go among the elders. This is a big one. And this is something I'll particularly focus on. Because over the years, I've met a lot of men that, I like, respect. But I realize because of the behavior of their lack of virtuous woman, lack of virtue that their wife has, they can't even lift their head up amongst the men in the gates. because it's an embarrassment. Because the wife would just like, oh yeah, you hang with the men and talking to the men. Come over here, I'm gonna whip you right in front of all the men. And then the shame and the disgrace. Can't be virtuous. So can't have dignity. So her husband can go amongst the elders in the gates and talk and welcome man, let's talk. But when you have a wife that is inglorious and not virtuous, then you can't have that. So I'm talking to a young person and say, hey, look, this is what you need to be looking for in a female. This is what you need to be agreeing with. And he's like, I'm not looking for that, man. I'm looking for the hottest thing on the block. Okay. Later on, they can't even show up, can't even talk, because guess what happened? It's an embarrassment what the wife is going on with. Law of kindness is in her mouth. When she open her mouth, you feel like you're gonna go crazy. I'm sure there's a lot of people today, a lot of young men today is gonna kill themselves, and because they sin against this text and sin against heaven, because they find somebody that is unkind, filth them out. And when the person talk, the evil and unkindness come out of their mouth, make them just go depressed and want to kill themselves. And so this is very valuable. Some people say, oh no, the Bible is not that valuable. As I say, just go check out the amount of people going to kill themselves today. And you tell me if this is not valuable. For this reason, she received honor and respect. So notice she receives honor and respect from her family. Because you can't, one thing in life I've noticed that you could do something and it is great, and a person don't appreciate it because they have no comparison. So it is great. Now it could be perfect, like we in heaven, because I've been in a situation where people can be either unthankful, unappreciative, or what we call ungrateful, or ignorant. And they're comparing apples to nothing, or they're comparing apples to heaven. But when you're comparing apples to apples, you have to compare apples to apples. There's a standard that is set, and when a person excel in that standard, they could always do better. But you realize that in comparison to what, you say, well, when you compare to what is around, you realize, wow. So there's a standard, and that's what we're reading about here in Proverbs. But when you deal with a person that might not even fit, like say you're talking to a female, you're interested in marrying to a female, and she might not fit everything here, but she check off quite a few of the boxes. You have to compare her to the other people around and realize, man, she's doing excellent because she ticks off so much of the boxes, or even if she don't tick the boxes off, she can gray out a certain area in the box and say, I'm coming up, baby. I'm filling out some of these things. I'm going to soon tick this thing off. And so you give honor, respect in the context of where we're at. We're on earth. This is our environment, and we're living amongst a lot of madness. So you meet somebody that is moving in the right direction. You'll be like, man, this is valuable. She is not vain and vapid. So we notice there the Bible keep talking about the fact that this is not vain and vapid person. In other words, I've come to realize that, the Bible talks about and when life, somebody said they're empty. I think often what creates this emptiness in individuals is the fact that they partake of too many things that are empty and have no value, no practical value. So if I sit down and I watch 10 movies for the day, and I've burned 15 hours of my day doing that, I've not gained anything that is going to make me have any value. I'm still going to be vapid and vain. And my life is going to be empty because there's no value to what I just did. And if I keep doing that, reading books that are science fiction, watching things that have nothing to do with anything, spend my whole day watching sports, then you end up with the same thing. Because a female would take all these lessons that we're going to talk about in the next few weeks and today, and you can apply that to a man. A man that can't do anything, he don't know, is foreign to a screwdriver. He doesn't understand how to use a pliers. He doesn't understand to do nothing practical. Even if he has a job or a trade, but he doesn't, I don't know, you have a trade without knowing to do a screwdriver. But you get the point. Even if he has a career or something, but he's just useless. when it comes on to any other thing, then it's the same thing. What are you married to? And how is it going to work out? So, to me, this idea of not being vain and not being vapid is to be rooted in practicality and knowledge and wisdom that is real. In other words, if a person spends a lot of time learning about trees, that's practical knowledge. That's useful knowledge. But if you spend a lot of time learning about, say, the Harry Potter series or the Game of Thrones series or any of these things, all that information you have is, what is the use of it? It has no practical use. If you know every stats from the National Basketball, no, that's not what it's called, but in the Baseball Association, whatever that is called. After you've learned all that stuff, what is the information? It has no practical use. And the more of this in your life, the more it's just vain. I would say it's better to be a producer of fabrics and materials and dresses and clothing than to be a person that just a consumer of it. And your head is filled with a lot of knowledge that can't make you any money. There's no practical result in it. So that being said, so she's not vain. She's not vapid. Everything I said about her here is practical. She spends her day consuming practical information and how to better her family. While there's others who spend their day watching reality TV. And then when winter comes, they have to go to the food pantry. They have to go to the place to do the coat drive. They have to be going to the Virtuous woman to bless them. And then you say, what do you do with your day? Oh, I watch a lot of TV, daytime soap opera. You see, so the moment you're dating, if you find that you're attracted to somebody and they say this is how they spend the day, you start with a slow walk away from the person. Then you turn around and you run for your life. You're wasting your time. You might end up suicidal when you marry someone like this. This is the baseline of depression. I've often talked about depression, and I realize not schizophrenia now, but depression. That depression is also so much associated with worthlessness and vanity. The more the person make worthless and crazy decisions, the more suicidal they be. And so you're concerned with this. And so as a young person, as a person of faith that listening to me who counsel with a young person, you got to teach them this. You got to tell them, hey, listen to this presentation. Because your choice is not, as I say, anybody can fall in love with something that they're ignorant of. And I'll talk about this more later. When you're ignorant of something, you can fall in love with it. So somebody attracted somebody and talk about they're going to get married to them or make a house with them. And they're ignorant about what it takes to make a house, work and run, what it takes to build a family. If that's what you're going into and all you're attracted with is the makeup on a person's face or how much muscle the guy has, you will be bitterly disappointed. But if you're going in and you understand what it takes to build a home, to build a house, a family, to raise kids, to take care of the home, to cook, to clean, to do the background functions, then your choice that you're looking for changes and you're more attracted intellectually and spiritually and emotionally to somebody that has more value than how their clothes look at them. But when you don't understand this, the clothing and the way the clothes look at them and the way they look without clothing is the only value. And that now becomes why, as I say, it's so many problems in the society. So when we look at this again in Proverbs 31 verse 10, which is our focus for the rest of this time here, as I just did a sweep there of what we're going to be covering. Proverbs 31 verse 10 says, who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. So there it introduced a thought that was introduced in Proverbs 3. So Proverbs 31 verse 10 introduces a thought that's introduced in Proverbs 3. And I'm going to go there in a second. So when you look at this, it's like, who can find? So it is something that is not the norm, right? Because a child could grow up in a home and they're literally like a figurine. They're just there to look good on a pedestal. And they have no practical value. They're not trained from a young age how to take care of themselves. So their requirement for life is that their parents take care of them. The parents do the work, they have a career, the parents cook, clean, laundry, everything, and they don't know how to do any of that thing. And so if the parents were out of the way, they would be like a baby, just grown and probably beautiful. So two young people now, imagine now the disaster where you have a male and a female, or a not virtuous man, a virtuous man or a virtuous woman, and have no practicality, can't hardly make any money, can hardly take care of a house, take care of children, have no hustle in them. And the two of them join up together because the two of them are hot for each other. And as they join up together, you see where the problem comes in now. Now they need to live together, and the two of them now start to go to fast food restaurants and takeouts for food. So they have to make more money because now they're just spending on all kind of fast food. Now their health is going to fail them because all that deep fried food they're eating, because they don't know what to do with. They don't know. They have no practical value or use in that type of stuff. They don't know how to make ends meet, how to stretch that dollar. They were never trained in their household for this. They were just trained to be figurines, to look good, and probably even to sound good. But that's it. And here, it's a disaster, and there's going to be want, and there's going to be fights, and there's going to be blame. You know, the husband is blaming the wife, and the wife is blaming the husband. And they're fighting. And now they say, oh, probably I need marital counseling. And you start counseling, you realize, wait a second. They're not falling apart because they're not hot for each other. They don't love each other. There's no romance. They're falling apart because they don't know how to live practically. They need to be trained the ABCs of life. What's up with your finances? Can you balance your checkbook? Balance your checkbook is not even a problem. It's spending when you ought not to spend. You have any self-control. Are you selfish? Is it all about you? Because a child is brought up as a figurine, as a doll, male or female, will be very selfish because all it is about them is about them. And so the parents have trained them to be all about them. And when you're in a home situation, it's about us. And if they were not trained to be in the house about us, and while the parents is washing the dishes, they're on their cell phone. While the parents is taking out the garbage, they're on their cell phone. While the parents is trying to figure out how to make ends meet financially, they're on their cell phone. They're there on social media. They're taking selfies of themselves. And now that person comes into a marriage, and imagine if two of them come into a marriage, male and female, and both of them are on their, one playing video games, one playing one doing social media, taking pictures of themselves, sharing it, and that's what the two of them doing. Now food need to be eaten. No food can be eaten. And I think this has caused a lot of young people not to be able to even get married in the first place. You look at a lot of the young people, they're living at home with their parents, they can't get married because they can't go there and make ends meet, both male and female. And it seems to be even bigger with the male more and more. And they're not suitable because they're busy eating fast food, getting fatter, lazier, and more vapid and useless. They don't know, they can't take care of themselves. So if you look at Proverbs now 3 verse 13, I'm going to go down to verse 25. We notice here the question is answered in a different way. So who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. Now in Proverbs 3 verse 13, it's talking about wisdom as a female, and saying if you find wisdom, you find something that is more valuable than rubies. So finding wisdom or finding female that is virtuous is synonymous in Proverbs. Because if you think about it, what is synonymous with Solomon is woman and wisdom. If you think about Solomon, the two main concepts that Solomon is known for is woman and wisdom. And you find in Proverbs 3, he's talking about wisdom. In Proverbs 31, he's talking about women. Because although Solomon was so wise, the vapid women, the Bible says he loved outlandish women. These type of Kim Kardashian type women. So he liked that type of woman. He liked that type of reality TV women. The women from Hollywood. with all the fake everything and plastic surgeries to the health. That's what he loved. And he said he loved the outlandish woman. As I say, a woman with fans, literally Japanese fans on their eyelid. So he likes that type of stuff. And the woman that were vapid overthrew his wisdom. So no matter how wise he was, as long as he have around him these vapid, vain women, these women that they like, when I say vapid, I mean it's like they're like vapor. There's nothing to it. It just disappears. It just blends out into the environment. And when you bury them, that's how it's going to be there. It's going to really be nothing. Never remembered. All they remember for is the amount of makeup they would wear. So here you have a wise man that have the most women, it seems, in Earth's history. And he got his wisdom overthrown. So we start off in Proverbs 3 and we end in Proverbs 31. The importance now that what he needed in his life is a wise woman, and he would have kept his wisdom. People can affect you. In other words, I say this to you, no matter how confident you are in yourself and your abilities and your greatness and your wisdom and your might and power, having people in your life that is vapid will affect you. And Solomon is a testimony of that. Your friends, your family, those who are close with you, your wife, your kid, they can rub off on you and they can trip you up in ways that you can't believe. And yet you listen. I guarantee I could bring 100 men in front of me now and say that to them, and most of them would dismiss me. And they go ahead, and then a few years later, quite a few of them are going to shoot themselves in the head for the same reason. Because why? They realize I made a mistake. I should have listened. The person that you connect yourself with for life is very important. The more foolish and silly they are, male and or female, because these principles apply both ways, is the more you'll be very depressed in this life. So Proverbs 3 verse 13 says, notice it says, now happy is the man that findeth wisdom. So we say, who can find a virtuous woman? Her price is more than rubies. Here it says, happy is the man that findeth wisdom, and the man that getteth understanding. Notice here, for the merchandise of it is better than the merchandise of silver, and the gain thereof than fine gold. She is more precious than rubies. So wisdom and women are viewed in the same manner by Solomon. You find a virtuous woman, she's more precious than rubies. You find wisdom, she's more precious than rubies. Both of them are viewed as a wife that is wise, is a female. All right. When you deal with a female that's wise, it's very beneficial. Because females tend to be on the more perceptive side of the business. Men are more will approach it. Don't judge me on this. I'm just my observation. If you observe different, I'll take it. There's no beef between both of us. But I've noticed many times men can be on the more analytic side, and then women can be on the more perceptive side. Both of them can do very good business. Because when we say, okay, we're looking at it from this way, the woman will perceive that this is a good thing. See, both can do business. It's just the approach might be slightly different because the thought pattern is different. So notice here, she is more precious than rubies, and all the things thou canst desire are not to be compared to unto her. So she's more precious than rubies, and all the things that to be desired can't be compared to her. So what do you desire in this life? What do you desire? You desire Garden of Eden? Well, the Bible says that Adam was in the Garden of Eden and he desired a wife. You desire some nice animals to be around you. Adam was in a zoo at the same time and he was still not happy. As a matter of fact, fascinating, I went to a zoo over in San Diego, and it's the Safari Zoo in San Diego. Not the zoo. The zoo is like that to a certain degree. And the zoo was like a garden. So they have it's like a blend with a garden and a zoo. And I thought that was fascinating. That was the close. I've been to garden, world-class gardens, world-class zoos. But being in a place where it was like a zoo and garden at the same time, it brought my thinking a lot to, I wonder what the place called Eden was. I wonder what Eden was like. Because Adam literally was in a zoo. And people love zoos because you love animals, love safaris. But on safaris, they're on the wild, open plain. But here it's like I was in a place where it was a zoo and a safari, and I don't think a zoo and a garden. I don't think they build it like that. But if I were them, I would build out the garden part more and make it more like that because it was fascinating. You get blown over with the thought that, man, I'm in a what is this, a garden or a zoo? It felt nice, and I think they could build that out more and make it more of that concept that I'm saying, a zoo and a garden, because that's what Adam was in. The Garden of Eden really was like a zoo at the same time was a garden. Anyhow, so look at this. So it was there, beautiful, and yet he needed a wife. So he says here, you find a wife, a helpmeet, somebody's going to help you. Same thing with a husband, not just a stud, but a husband. Not as a useless stud, because the male version of a narcissistic female is a stud. It's just there to sire children, and that's it. And so many people, get a stud, and all the stud do is whip them and beat them and step on them physically. In reality, there's nothing else he can do, and he can't control her because she's not gonna be happy, and so he's gonna whip her into shape, and then she's gonna try to outdo him and connive him and all kind of stuff like that. It's just disaster. So notice here, length of days is in her hand, her right hand, and in her left hand, riches and honor. So when you think about that and everything I'm reading here, and you think about a virtuous woman and what we're going to cover in the next few weeks, you think about how powerful that is. That just having wisdom is like having a virtuous woman. This virtuous woman, just not describing who her husband is, just describing who she is. She is like wisdom. Wisdom will get you riches and honor. A person could have riches and whatever, and they never get what wisdom give you. But you could have a person who have wisdom, and he ends up in the same position that a man with a virtuous wife. Isn't that powerful? A man find a virtuous wife. He didn't just go out there. It's like you're doing business. You're going out there, you're trying to say buying into a franchise, or sign up with a franchise and buying into it. You want to buy into the franchise that's going to get you the best opportunity for success. And you say this franchise is worth more than a franchise that is just franchise in name. And so you want to see the balance sheet, you want to read the contract, you want to do everything. To me, that's how you should get married. You should get married. I believe you should get married. You should do marriage counseling. You should do a blood test. You should do a credit report on your wife. You should meet their family. You should talk about their history, their schooling, go over the whole thing. And if you still love that wife after going through all of that, you can sign up to the franchise. You can get her because she's going to do you well, because you know what you're getting. But many people go into marriage with less effort than they would go into a franchise. That they would sign a contract. They would read over the contract, call a lawyer, go over the paperwork. But, they're getting married. They don't make somebody go for the paperwork. Like if you're getting married, I'll do the marriage counseling. I'll look over the credit report. I'll even review the blood test. I'll do all that with you. I'll be a second. you're a second, what do you call it? A second opinion. And I'm going to tell you, married to somebody like that, after doing all that, I'm going to tell you, you're going to be in love more than 99.9% of the people get married. I guaranteed, because you know what you're marrying into. I can't overemphasize that. Notice there, the Lord by wisdom had found the earth, and by understanding he had established. Notice here, I read verse 18 again. I didn't even read it, so I skip it. Sorry for that. Verse 18, she is a tree of life to them that lay hold upon her. Remember, Adam and Eve lost the tree of life because Eve became very foolish in her judgment and in not being a helpmate and go checking out Adam and say, Adam, I hear the snake talking over here. What do you think about it? Anyhow, so she's a tree of life. And that's why I mention over and over again how many people today are going to die because of the choice wife that they choose. Or the choice crazy husband that they choose. A crazy guy. It's going to wipe the whole family out. And happy is everyone that retaineth her. So this is a keeper. I'm sure you hear somebody say, hey, this woman is a keeper. Because you can go there and find a lot of people a lot of guys who are players, a lot of women who are hoes, or players themselves. And you can find players on both sides. But when you find a woman that you can make a house with, that's a keeper. Same with a guy. Notice here in verse 19. The Lord by wisdom had found the earth, and by understanding had established the heavens. So this is how you go into anything you're doing. When I was young, nobody taught me this type of stuff. So I really didn't understand that even when it comes on to church, when it comes on to like joining a church, you need to know why you're joining. And I've changed my whole view of all of that. I've, almost initiate the whole idea of church, and I'm glad I got a reset. It's like I had to reset. And the reason why I had to reset, because again, I realized the way we do corporate church doesn't work. You join a church, you don't really join a church family. You don't get to investigate, see who the people you're connecting with, and then say, I'm part of this group of people. You're just kind of just running and just jumping like everybody else. And so people do marriages, people do jobs. I believe when you go on a job interview, unless you're so desperate, you go on a job interview as a professional adult that have some sense. You're going to go in on an interview, but they're going to be interviewed. You need to ask them some questions because it's probably not the job you want. I know somebody said, but I'm desperate. My bills need to be paid. That's why you need to get your finances as much as possible under control, because you need to interview the job just as how they need to interview you, because it might be a great job, but not for you. It's for somebody else. So notice here, it's how you do life through understanding the earth is established and founded it through wisdom. You need to do life like this. Your partner needs to be like this. And I would even say why this set of series will be important, this little section here I'll be doing for next few weeks, is because if you are already married, there's some things that you need to sit down and talk to your spouse about to make everything work better. Because they say, extra hand make work light. And sometimes you have an extra hand, but they're busy on social media. They're busy watching sports, and they're not an extra hand. They're not a help. Notice here by 20, it says, by his wisdom the depths are broken up, and the clouds drop down dew. My son, let not them depart from thine eyes, and keep sound wisdom and discretion. So shall they be life unto thy soul, and grace to thy neck. Then shalt thou walk in thy way safely, and thy foot shall not stumble. When thou liest down, thou shalt not be afraid. Yea, thou shalt lie down, and thy sleep shall be sweet. Be not afraid of sudden fear, neither of the desolation of the wicked when it come. This is all because you receive wisdom. So you can see the desolation of the wicked, but you think about it, most of what's happening with the wicked in our world is happening out of ignorance. They don't understand. They're not much better than the cattle. See, cattle, he's going to get cut. His head's going to get cut tomorrow. I don't know why. And often we can be like that. As I remember when I was young, in that ignorance that I came out of, that darkness. I remember when I was young, I never understood why cancer happened. Somehow it was so obvious. People smoke, you get cancer in your lungs. But they talk about it as if it's a mystery. You don't understand why diabetes happened. You don't understand why. There's a lot of things you just did not understand why it happened, because life was not taught in school and church. It didn't teach me cause and effect. But as I came to the light, I started to realize cause and effect. And I started to see that marriages fail because of ignoring this type of stuff. There's no wisdom or understanding. Not understanding that God created the heavens and the earth. Yes, that's how I thought when I read the Bible at first. That God has created heaven and earth, and there's no laws to it. But the more I studied, the more I realized, even though God created heavens and the earth, and He said He spoke and it was, there's principles to it. The sun is just not there in thought. It's literally a hydrogen bomb going off. There's a theory to it. If you understand the theory, you can duplicate what's going on there. It is, principles can be captured and reinvented by human beings. And that's why you could be listening to me now going to work, and you listen to me on a phone. The principles can be duplicated. It's knowledge and wisdom and understanding. And it's the same thing with marriage. You can be At this point, if you're already married, and if you have not married, you can be the happiest married person, one of the happiest married people on the planet. Why? Because it's just principles. It ain't nothing to do with all this emotional stuff. It's some of it is there. There has to be a law of attraction, and as they say, opposite attract. But in the mere fact that opposite attract, then that's a whole other ball of wax. But there's a law of attraction, opposite attract, because opposite need the other. But you have to know to work it out, because there's failings in the other. If one person is hyper, the other person is calm, they're attracted to each other. That's actually a right marriage. That's actually a good blend. That's how it's supposed to be. You can't have two crazy people married to each other. They're going to be like shooting up the place and murdering people. So you need that type of thing. But you have to know how it works. But you can be quite happy when you understand these things. And you understand to make it work. And you know what you're looking for. What you're looking for is a person is a helping hand. Is a person. I've seen situations where the husband is working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, tired, and the family is not making ends meet, and the wife is busy watching soap opera, daytime talk program, and just going on life. Instead of saying, I'm going to slip aside some of the money here. I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get a little trade, a little career. I'm going to do a little part-time job, and I'm going to fill up that void and take the pressure off my husband. It's crazy. You watch that type of stuff, you realize a lot of it is just not understanding the virtuous woman. You make it happen, right? And it's the same thing with guys. There's a lot of guys that they're useless, and they'll never lead out a family or anything like that because they're not productive. Productivity is even more than how much you make. I can show you as a guy that you can make. Your wife could make 100,000. You could make 50,000. I'm going to show you how you make up the as we go through these talks, you'll see how you make up the difference. Because notice, as I say, she had a career, a trade, a hustle. So you could make up that at 50 and still come in and make sure that retirement money is being put away, bills are being paid, investments are being made, stuff are being made because you're going to hustle. You're going to do certain things. There's certain things I make sure I do, and then certain things I pay to get done. Like, if it's something electrical around my house, I tend to not do that. I pay a professional to do anything electrical because I'm afraid of fires, right? Afraid to be roasted alive. But with other things, I take care of it. I ain't worry about it. I'm going to make sure it's structurally sound. I'm going to put some extra bolts in it and extra screws, and we're good. And you make up that difference. So if I do a little project, and the project I know I have to pay $1,000 to get the project done, and I can get the project done in a reasonable amount of time and save myself that $1,000, I do it. That's $1,000. I just add $1,000 after tax. And that's what the virtuous woman is doing. And that's what is encouraging. Notice here, it's not encouraging a guy to do this. The Bible is encouraging a female to do this. How much more a guy? How much more a guy to do this? So notice here, I'm going to read a statement here from Ellen G. White, and this was written over 100 years ago. I notice that this is an advice he's given to a young person, and I want to see these two paragraphs. So when you think about there's a whole bunch of powerful statements in here. There's probably about 4, I think, or 3. So I'm going to read 2 little paragraphs, and I want you to think about this when we talk about who can find a virtuous woman. Love is a sentiment so sacred that but few know what it is. So that's one of them. I'm going to pause there. I'm going to pause straight through. Love is a sentiment so sacred that few know what it is. A lot of people don't really know what love is. They don't say, I'm in love. And what they're thinking, they're in love. They're lusting or infatuation. Continue reading here. It is a term used but not understood. The warm glow of impulse, the fascination of one young person for another is not love. It is not deserved the name. It does not deserve the name. True love has an intellectual basis, a deep, thorough knowledge of the object loved. I'm going to read this 2 more times because, as I say, you're hearing me live, so you might not got that the first swipe. So when you think about what she said here, the statement, as I said, it's a few powerful statements here. True love has an intellectual basis, a deep, thorough knowledge of the object loved. A third time. True love has an intellectual basis, a deep, thorough knowledge of the object loved. That's the end of the first paragraph there. This is from Letters to Young Lovers. So there she says, true love on an intellectual basis. Because I say it in a different way. So that's why I love the way she said it. I normally say this, that it's easy to love what you're ignorant of and hard to love what you're knowledgeable of. So if you can love something that you know, it's a more powerful love. If you love something that you don't know, you really don't love, because you're loving in ignorance. So when I read this here, I thought, oh, she said it differently. I love how she says that. It's easy. It's easy for two people to say, we fall in love. And I'm like, what's her name? What's her middle name? And the person's like, okay, what's your middle name? You don't even know the person's middle name. You don't know if the person have a middle name or not. That's not love. That's going to end bad. And love might start that way, or attraction might start that way. But when you really love a person is when you probably been married to them, where you didn't know them before, you go married to them 2 years later. If you still love them, I think you're in love. See, love has to have an intellectual basis. You got to know what you're loving. And if you can know something, but people want to love in ignorance, that don't work. This is why sometimes you find people, they divorce their wife and then later remarry their wife. And you say, why did they remarry? Because they find the grass definitely was not greener. And it's easier to love something you're ignorant of. But when you love something that you know, it's a more powerful stay in love. So who can find a virtuous woman? You see, if you find a woman and you know that this woman here can take care of home, take care of kids, cook, clean, can work, can make money, respectful, not disrespectful when she open her mouth, it's not that kind of filthiness. And you love that woman, I'm going to tell you, man, God bless you. You'll find a good woman. God bless you. Praise the Lord. But you love something that is just walking down the road. That's not love. That's impulse. The next paragraph. Read part of the next paragraph here. It says, remember that impulsive love is perfectly blind. Powerful statement here again. I'm going to read it again. Remember that impulsive love is perfectly blind. It will as soon be placed on unworthy objects as worthy. It will as soon be placed on unworthy objects as unworthy. See, so when you love and you're in blindness, impulsive love, you could love something that's worthy, and you could love something that's unworthy. It's like it's like gambling. It's like, I would say, if I line up a lineup of 10 women and say 5 are virtuous, or no, say 2 are virtuous and 8 are unvirtuous. It's just 8 of them are going to be a disaster. And imperfect love or impulsive love can be a love where I just say, walk over and grab one of them and I put a blindfold. And you have a 1 in 5 chance of picking the ones that are virtuous. And that's what impulsive love is. You could get lucky. But we don't believe in chance. You see, what you want to do is like, hey ladies, give me a resume. I want to meet your family. I want to talk to you. Not this type of foolishness that they do on TV. I can't remember the program name. But it is a love that is knowledgeable. It's not impulsive. So you could love somebody and you just happen to get lucky. Your foolishness didn't burn you. But most people are going to get burned. Notice here. Command such love to stand still and cool. Give place to genuine thought and deep, earnest reflection. Is this the object of your affection? Is the scale of intelligence and moral excellence in deportment and cultivated manners such as you will feel a pride to present to your father's family, to acknowledging in all society as the object of your choice? So you could choose a wife and you embarrass in public, because the wife is going to embarrass you in public. So this is what you want. And it's the same thing with a husband. You could choose a husband. It's an embarrassment. You don't want to bring your husband around your friends because he's going to embarrass you. So true love is placed upon an object that is worthy. And this is where we talk about the virtuous woman. Now, in what you're looking for, and as I say, nobody's perfect. You're not going to find a perfect person out there. But what you're looking for, what you're requiring, or what you're seeking, is also what you have in yourself. You see, if you are a person that can't be presented to the family of your spouse, of your bride to be, then probably you're not going to find a person who is going to be ashamed to present you to their family. Because you're going to end up, if you're not a virtuous guy, and you're not seeking to be, kind in your words and all that, you're going to just go for anything that comes your way. Your standards are going to be lower because you have no standards, period. You think about the story of Samson. Samson was a young man that was blessed with vapidity, I don't know if that's not a word, but with a vapid type of lifestyle. He was the guy that with the muscle. He was like these guys you see in society. They're buff, bigger, stronger, faster. And look what he was attracted to. It's almost perfect. He was like the prodigal son, so to speak, but while a judge of Israel. And he was attracted to whores. Sad. And guess what happened? She did him the opposite of a virtuous woman. She took him out. She literally took him out, caused him to get his eye plucked out because his eyes was what was fooling him. He was placing his affection on an unworthy woman. And the end result was that she was going to make him fail. And that's what you don't want. You see, when the affection is placed, it's gone. You can hardly convince a person to go the other way because the affection is on something that he ain't not supposed to be worthy. So love is a sentiment that is understood. Most people don't understand what is love. And then on a part there that there has to be an intellectual basis and a deep knowledge for the object of love. Think about when you buy a car. Well, I'm not going to say all people buy a car this way, but a lot of people when they buy a car, they watch the reviews, they read up on the car, they find out the horsepower, they find out how it can merge, they find out all this detail. Most people, I should say. I don't know if it's most female, because most of the time, think about it again, most of the time it's a guy that's into car. There's a lot of women into car, but a lot of the time a guy is into car where they want to know. I started talking to a guy, they say they start asking, what's the horsepower rating? They start going into something. And some guys, they get into it real deep, way deeper than me. I'm not talking about people who are mechanics. I'm talking about people who are regular people. They get into it like they want to know specifics about the car, about the transmission, about the gear ratio, the wheelbase, where the power is being sent if it's a 4-wheel drive. They get into it very seriously, and they get into so much detail that if they would get into that detail with their spouse, they wouldn't get all that surprise. Because what you're looking for is somebody that's going to have a successful endeavor. Like marriage is like a corporation. It's like a business. You're going to have a successful endeavor. And you want to be able to keep the light of love, the fire of love burning. And you want to limit the distractions. And so everything that we're going to repeat here before I close this out is how you limit the distractions. So when you have a spouse, male and female, but our primary focus is on the female, because if the female does this, that female is not going to be able to be with a male that's a bum. It's not going to happen. Notice here, she has her own hustle, trade, career. And it seemed like she have all three, or at least two of them. She'd have a trade and a career, and then she have a hustle. She seemed to be a person that does clothing, but she also sells it. So seem to be manufacturing and retail at the same time. Or wholesale, sorry, because she sells to the merchants. She seemed to be a person that is also buying properties and then developing them to do vineyard. So she has more than one trade or hustle. She's busy making that buck. And I'm going to tell you, I've heard many people say to me that they've been in situations where they were broke and it was a lot of stress in the family. They had some money, the stress reduced by a huge amount. Just being able to reach out there and buy something. Because it's all that frustration. When this is breaking, that's breaking, this need replacing, all that's going on. Man, it drives you up the wall. You've been there, you know what I'm talking about. So if you're going to do marriage, this is going to be part of it. Whether or not you like it, whether or not, oh, but I'm in love with this person. Yeah, but this person is going to make a miserable. You're going to end up in a divorce anyhow. So what's the point? So she has her own hustler trade. So is the guy. Imagine you have two people like this. It's going to make a very successful marriage. You're going to be able to pay some bills. You're going to be able to go on vacation. You're going to be able to, drive a decent chariot, horse and chariot. You're going to be, it's just like the chariots we drive nowadays. It's not just one horse or 2 horse or 4 horse. We're driving chariots with 100 and something to 200 and even 300, 400. I see chariots with over 600 horses. That's a lot of horse for a chariot. But you're not worried about that stuff because it's the work that you're putting in and it's the reward. And I read that before I close. Notice here, she dresses her family well for every season. She have take care of the needy because she have extra. Her husband can go among the elders. So her husband can sit, and if I'm there and Elder Jose is at church with me, her husband can come over and we can all sit and talk. And somebody say, what's going on there? Oh no, it's just his wife is making it possible. His wife is making that he can sit with the elders and we can all talk. Now if his wife is not a virtuous woman, he's not going to feel comfortable coming over and talking to the elders. So that's also how it goes. The law of kindness is in her. When she speaks, oh man, you feel good. Oh, you fall in love even more. See, this is love right here. You can love a woman like this. This is like exciting love. She receive her honor, respect. You can respect this woman. And she's not a vain and vapid person. So you can feel, oh, praise the Lord. She's not like Samson, destruction, Delilah. She has some, strength to her. She's not like Ahab, wife. She's just vain and vapid. All right? So that's what it is. Now, this is important. And so, because it's so important, I'll read for you Matthew as an encouragement. If you're a young man listening to me, or a young woman looking for a spouse, or one day you'll be finding a spouse, I use this as an encouragement to you. Matthew 7, verse 6 through 11. Matthew 7, verse 6 through 11 says, give not that which is holy unto dogs, neither cast your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you. So imagine he's a virtuous woman. She working, she have a career, she have hustle, she's respectful, she's kind, she blesses the church, and now a husband is beating on her. That's taking a pearl and throw it before a swine. The swine doesn't deserve her. That pig doesn't deserve her. So as a young person, if you are this person, male, female, and you're virtuous and you're productive, don't be, go find yourself a good spouse. Don't go give yourself to a swine. All this swine's going to do is just trample you and not going to appreciate you. Because it's a pig. You don't want to marry to a pig. You don't give yourself to a pig. So you don't listen to people say, just focus on love. No, don't focus on not giving yourself to a pig. You're precious. You're a commodity. You're more precious than ruby. Don't give yourself to a pig. Notice there it says here, ask and it shall be given unto you. Seek and it shall find. Knock and it shall be opened to you. For everyone that asketh receiveth, and he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. And so simply it says here, who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. So I encourage you, if you are a ruby yourself and you're precious, you're virtuous, go find yourself a virtuous spouse. And if your spouse is not virtuous, encourage them to be virtuous. You're worth it. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you again for the blessings of your word, for the blessings of this day. I pray, the Lord, that you may anoint us by thy Spirit, and that you may give those, dear Lord, that are hearing me, a value for themselves as you value them, and that they may not cast themselves as a pearl, as a ruby, even more precious than ruby, to swines, and go give themselves into a terrible marriage. May you bless us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. Well, thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live Monday morning, where we should talk about motivation. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.